We're gonna analyze how to strength train for an entire year for football-based training, and we're gonna start right now. What's up, everybody? It's Dane Miller from GarageStrength.com, and if this is your first time to the channel and you're interested in learning more about strength and conditioning, you wanna be more explosive, you wanna become a better athlete, make sure that you like, you subscribe, and you ring that notification bell so we can help you become a beast. So you feel like you're getting stronger, you're moving really well in training, your team's moving really well at practice, you feel explosive, but you still step out onto the field and every Friday night or every Saturday, you're getting smacked around, you're getting beat up, and you can't figure out what it is that's causing you to get dominated by your opponent. And this is a really common theme that we start to hear with younger football players who are struggling to figure out how to strength train on that year-round basis. They struggle to really focus on different tasks throughout the year. And it's a really important factor even if you're a coach, because a lot of coaches might just be in the weight room blowing whistles, screaming at kids to do extra things, and really have no purpose for their weight room work on a year-round basis. They don't know what each month should be focused on. They don't know what they should be doing in January. They don't know what they should be focusing on in February. And it's important to take that step back and look at that big year perspective. And what we've done here is we've analyzed, okay, this is the main focus, right? When we're talking about strength training for football on that year-round, that global perspective, we've got to be focused on September through November, and in some states, September through December, right? And some states will start at the end of August, so we can factor that in. But what ends up happening is that we've got to start in January or March. So what are we going to be doing through January, February, and March? How are we going to be starting off the off season? That's where we've got to think about intro to the off season. So what does that mean? At this point in the year, we can just bring kids back into the gym. The football season's been over. They might be a little bit fatigued, but they're anxious to get back in it. They remember those Friday nights and they're sick of getting beaten up, right? So they want to get a little bit bigger. And early on, January and February, we should start to do a lot of bodybuilding stuff. Just get them back into the weight room, get them back used to getting the pump, get them back used to feeling sore, get them back into that gym so they have the camaraderie that they can formulate, but make sure that they focus on specific movements and just getting back into strength training shape. Remember, this doesn't matter when we're talking about weight room numbers. January, February, March doesn't matter. We're just laying the foundation here, that broad 3-month foundation to really hammer that September and November. So typically what I would say is January, February, March, focus on bodybuilding movements, focus on strength training, and just getting everybody back into the room. Now it's April, May, June. We want to focus on technical development during this time frame, okay? Technique, we want to focus on developing better clean technique. Maybe we're going to start to teach our kids how to snatch. They can be more explosive in their first step. They can hit a little bit more explosively. They can have a better performance at combines. They can increase their vertical jump. They can increase their broad jump, their 40. And they also start to really build the engine. That's what we're focusing on here during April, May, and June. We want to build the engine. The bigger that engine is going to be, the more power it can put out. And technical development is going to be part of that. But remember back, January, February, March was all about building that foundation. So if we're building that foundation and then we start to focus on technical development, now we're building that bigger engine. And when everything is bigger, the foundation is bigger, foundation stronger. The power output starts to get much greater. And then that's going to take us into June. And in June, we can start to really focus on combine work. And I would even say, back in late April, early May, combine work can start to take priority. Now you can take that skill level, right? We can take these high school kids and we can teach them how to run the L drill. We can teach them how to execute the shuttle. We can teach them the proper technique behind a good vertical jump, behind a good broad jump. And that goes a long way because a lot of high school football players tend to be just straight up aggressive meatheads, right? They don't think of the game through the realm of technique. But if we can build that big engine and they can put out greater amounts of power, and then they start to have that technical mindset, and they're developing that technical mindset through the Olympic lifts, and then in May and in June, we start to really focus on the technique needed to execute combine prep, now they start to think a little bit more relatable to different technical aspects on the actual field. But when we get into June and July, now it's gonna be more of that combine prep, but then we're also gonna start to think about sharpening the motor, getting the motor to run more efficiently. We're gonna really focus on developing a ton of power. During June, during July, if they're not going to a weekend camp or whatever it might be, we've got to hammer that technical work in the weight room. We've got to get our football players to be as strong as possible. We want to blow up their squats. We want to blow up their benches. We want to blow up their cleans. We want to make sure they're executing really refined movements like the snatch. And what that's going to do is that's going to help us increase their structural integrity. They're going to be more mobile. Their ankles are going to be more mobile. Their lower back's going to be more mobile. Their hips are going to be able to sink a little bit deeper, and that's going to help them change their pad levels. When their pad level starts to get a little bit lower, now they have better leverage when they're hitting each other. So during this time frame, okay, June, July, and August, that's a pivotal part of your year. But June, July, and August will only be a successful period if this period of development is optimized. So we want to focus again, build that foundation, get into the technical development, build the engine, create more power-based movements, focus on the cleans, focus on the snatches, head into June, focusing on that combine work, make sure that everybody's firing on all cylinders. And then when we head into late August, early September, now we've got that preseason work. We want to back off of these guys. Give them 2 weeks without weight room work, maybe a full week of no weight room work, so they're able to freshen up. They feel good for that first game or two. And now when we're talking about that in-season period, it comes down to, all right, which opponents are gonna be the tough opponents that we should back off in the weight room? Which opponents are we really going to be able to dominate? If we have a week or two where we can dominate our opponents no matter what, we should be hammering the weight room. If we have an opponent for a week or two that are gonna be difficult, we got to back off, but it's enabling the coach to be dynamic. Coaches must be dynamic. And the more work that happens during the first 3 phases, the easier the preseason and the in-season phases become. So we've got to make sure that everybody is focusing on building that foundation, doing that good bodybuilding work, and then learning a lot of Olympic lifts early on in April, May, and June. Now, before we get into peaking and what it means to peak an entire football team, if you need help with devising an entire plan around football-based training for an entire year, at Garage Strength, we provide a month-by-month training routine. So every single month, we put out a program, a football subscription program that guides you through exactly what you need in that specific month. And you can get that first month for free if you click on the link down below in the description. You can head over to garagestrength.com and you can pick up your first month of football-based training for free. An entire program, an entire 1 month program for free. You got to enter your credit card, but the first month you will not be charged. And that's going to get you to start to build for that year by year, month by month by month process that's going to take you all the way into September through November. And that's where we get to, we're trying to peak a team. We've got a whole team, 50 players. How are we going to peak them? And that's where we got to start to think about which players need to be really fresh. Which specific positions do we need our athletes to be really, really on point? And maybe you might have a team in the first week of playoffs that you can steamroll. Well, that means you've got to be hammering the weights for that entire week. But then the following week, you might have a really tough team. So you've got to back off and make sure that your athletes are just focused in the weight room. They're coming in, they're executing their Olympic lifts, they're doing their jumps nice and easy, and they're keeping the intensity down. One of the biggest mistakes that I see football coaches do when we get into that peaking season is they still see that high school kids love to lift heavy. High school kids love to feed off of all of their energy, and they'll do that no matter what, right? They want to go to max every single week all the time. So you've got to reel them in. You've got to pull on the reins and say, hey guys, listen, the whole goal is for the next 3 weeks, we're coming in, we're doing a 30-minute lift twice a week so that for the next 3 to 4 weeks, we can feel fresh and we can dominate our opponents. And all of that work that you've done during January through March, during April through June, all of that's going to start to pay off. And that's the big key factor, is that early on, your team should be training 4 to 5 days a week. You should be really hammering those different movements and building a really strong foundation so that they know when they can turn it on. Now, when we get into November and December, they know, all right, we got to back off. We can still do a couple different jumps, but the volume's got to drop drastically. When the volume drops drastically, now they have more time to recover. Their muscles feel better, their nervous system feels better, and they can get into the season and dominate that postseason so they can bring home that state title. So make sure that you focus on each specific period. I recommend looking at least January, February. I like doing 8 to 12 week blocks. If we do 8 to 12 week blocks, it helps us be a little bit more dynamic and we can see how each different position group is recovering and how they respond to different types of stimuli. And then over time, we've got to remember the main focus is always going to be around September, October, November, and then ideally we're playing for that state title in December and we're bringing it back home so that all of this work pays off and all of our kids have a good time, they're successful, they can go play at the collegiate level and continue to dominate in the sport of football. So again, if you need help with year-round strength training for football, click on the link down below. You can get the first month free. Just put in your information, we'll send it over in an email. You'll get a full PDF that has step-by-step process around football-based strength training. If you want more content around football-based strength training, click on this card right here. Until next time, guys, peace.